We've been on a series.
Yeah, so first of all, welcome.
Mm-hmm.
We've been doing a series where we've been talking about um, seeing Jesus or putting the Jesus filter on a lot of the old like Testament stories that we knew as kids, but maybe didn't fully appreciate or didn't really grasp the meaning of.
Mm-hmm.
And we're putting that meaning back to Jesus, which was the original intention. So we've been doing that for a couple weeks, and we're gonna take a break from it. I don't know if a break or
It's a pause.
we're just gonna switch. Yeah, we're just gonna switch it up. Pause, and we're gonna talk about
Just Jesus.
that what actually Jesus actually said, right? Like what Jesus said.
He's not wanting it.
I-
I'm just
I
kidding.
feel like it's just like okay, yeah, it could be just Jesus.
Not buying it.
Yeah, so today we're gonna talk about a parable. Yeah, the parable, more specifically, the parable of the prodigal son,
Mhm.
as it's called in Luke chapter 15, verse 11. It starts. Yep.
So
Say it again. Luke what?
Luke chapter 15,
Mhm.
verse 11.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because I was just thinking like we had gone through the other stories in the book, and we tried not to see ourselves in the stories and see Jesus in them.
Mhm.
And I think these parables are more for like you can actually see yourself in these parables. So and I think that's what the original intent was from Jesus himself. So
Mhm.
that's kind of like the flip side of what we've been doing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 So we'll just go ahead and read.
And
Yeah.
read them.
Do you want to read? Does anybody like in class? Anybody volunteer to read?
I can try to read it.
Okay, and then you can just put it back to somebody else if you want.
Okay. And he said, "There was a man who had 2 sons. And the younger of them said to his father, 'Father, give me the share of property that is coming to me.' And he divided his property between them. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country. And there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants.' And he arose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion, and ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet, and bring the fattened calf and kill it. And let us eat and celebrate. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate. Now his older son was in the field, and as he came and drew near to the house, he heard music and dancing. And he called one of the servants and asked what these things meant. And he said to him, 'Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fattened calf, because he has received him back safe and sound.' But he was angry and refused to go in. His father came out and entreated him. But he answered his father, 'Look, these many years I have served you, and I never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me a young goat that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed a fattened calf for him.' And he said to him, 'Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. It was fitting to celebrate and be glad, for this your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found.'" And that is the parable. So, I would like to read the first two verses of chapter 15, just because I feel like we kind of have to know who Jesus was talking to. So, chapter 15, verse 1 and 2 say, "Now the tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to hear him. And the Pharisees and the scribes grumbled, saying, 'This man receives sinners and eats with them.'" So he had at least four groups, right? The tax collectors, the sinners, Pharisees, and the scribes. So he was talking to them. And do you want to tell them what the Pharisees, who the Pharisees are?
Yeah, because I think like it does kind of like you brought up a good point that we don't even think about what that means anymore for people, right? So like,
Well, because I was confused. I know I was confused for the longest
as to what a
time.
Pharisee was, right?
What a Pharisee, were a Gentile, like what tax collectors, like just all those titles. I was confused. So I mean, simple terms, right? Tax collectors were Hebrews that were working for the Roman government, right? The Roman were ruling the Hebrews. The Pharisees were just a separated group of men who followed Moses' law, the law, to the T, right?
Yeah, and
they
it was
just followed.
Yeah, I think they brought it even like farther than just like the Mosaic law. It was like they made more laws to follow so they wouldn't even break those laws. So it was like they were just like very strict people who thought about
Extra.
yeah, like just like more and more, like I have to do more, right? So it was always about what they did, which is the Pharisees, and the scribes too. Like they were just like very kind of people who were. I mean, they were seen in like a very high light, right? I mean, the community, they were pretty high people.
High society.
Yeah, so they were kind of like pretty high society in that time. And I think even like the tax collectors, they worked for the government, but they were kind of they took that power and were more like they would charge more than they would actually need to take, or they were just like not good people anyway, right? Like tax collectors, the sinners, so they could kind of be crumbled up into that, like they were just kind of like not good people, not very honest.
Hypocrites.
Yeah, hypocrites. And then the scribes were just like the people who were at that time. They were like, these guys are the ones that que dicen lo que es, right? Like they know what they're talking about, kind of people. So Jesus is talking to these people, right? That are, it's just a very interesting group of people to have at the same time that he's talking to. Yeah, so that's kind of just like
Just so we know, like
yeah.
why or to who Jesus was just like saying this, you know.
Yeah, and then even like the Pharisees, what they said to Jesus was like, "This man receives sinners and eats with them." So they're even like, in what they do is like, well, look what he's doing. He's like, why would you listen to him? Look at him. He's eating with people who he shouldn't be eating with, or like, yeah.
And Jesus knew this, right? So that's why he's like, okay, well, let me tell you this parable, and he tells them not only this one but a bunch of other more.
Yeah, I think it's like even like the I think another thing that kind of gets lost is like, why did Jesus say stuff like this, or why does he talk in this way? Why doesn't he just like, I don't know, diss them or something, or just like, but more straightforward, right? I don't know, like so. What I was thinking was like that. The things he says, and he says early on, is like those who want to hear, or those who want to actually hear what I have to say, will listen and they will actually understand, and those who don't will just not even care. So it's kind of like, I think that's why he spoke in these kind of like story ways, was like because people who actually care will find the meaning in them, and those who don't will just kind of like, oh, whatever, like it's not.
Yeah, I think too that's like kind of what a preacher's job is that they're supposed to break it down so you understand it better. And I think what Jesus was actually doing is because those people, the tax collectors and the scribes, and they were doing things kind of outsmarting the people. They didn't understand what was going on. They were like being manipulated, basically. So Jesus broke down their behavior. He was saying, okay, this is happening, but I'm going to show you a story to show you what's actually happening to you. And so then we go into the whole thing about the prodigal son, because they're accusing him, right? They were accusing Jesus of like, running around partying with people that he's not supposed to be with. So he's like, okay, that's what you want to throw at me. I have to like expose you too. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah.
That's the way Jesus did pretty much everything.
Yeah, because like,
he's like, if you want the truth, okay, well then, ahí te va.
Like you said, exactly, break them down, because I think people think that they're good, right? Or everybody's like,
Right.
oh, I'm okay. Like, I don't do this stuff. Like the Pharisees, especially, like,
Mhm.
I've been doing this stuff, so I'm good, right? But like Jesus, like, nobody's good. It's kind of like the whole point, right?
Right.
Like nobody's good and everybody's. So it's like exactly that, like breaking everybody down. Even the tax
Mhm.
collectors, like, I know you guys are doing this kind of sleazy stuff on the side, right, or whatever. So
Right.
yeah, I think that's spot on.
Which is so funny. Like I have these like conversations like weekly, basically with friends and stuff. Like they're saying, "Well, what do you think about this, Maya? What do you think?" And I have to be like, "Okay, let's break it down. Like, what is it? What is it that we're actually saying?" And I think it's really important for us as believers to do that all the time. Like, can we actually like see the fruit of what they're doing, or let's break it down? And I think that's what Jesus is going to do. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's what he did in the parable.
Mm-hmm.
But he does it, I feel like he always does it in like a loving way.
Right.
Like he breaks
It
it
was
down to you.
non-accusatory.
Right.
Right.
Like
Or not accusing. Sorry.
Yeah.
He's really small. I mean,
Yeah.
smart. He's really smart. He's really smart, and the way he says it, because
Because
he I think. Well, go ahead.
no, because I was just gonna say, like, he does it in such a loving way. Like, he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna expose you, right?"
Mhm.
And here we see, I mean, there's three people in the parable, right? Like, you can say, well, the father is God, right?
Yeah.
Like, the father is God. So there's two other people, right, in the story, and he's like, "I'm exposing both of you, both of my sons, right, in the parable, but I love you both." So it's just like he always does that. Like, okay, I'm gonna expose you, but I love you. You know, I'm gonna expose you to show
Yeah.
you I love
Which
you.
is like, yeah, like you wouldn't do that if you didn't love somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel too like, just again trying to break it down again, is like, even in the smallest details of the story, it applies to what's going on between Jesus, the people, and the Pharisees, or that group of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even when, sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to go into it right away, but like, to me, something that like stands out to me is like, um, it's natural to feel, to identify, I guess, with the brother that did everything right. I mean, us as believers.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like too, like, we even talked about it with the whole Jonah thing. Like, it's like, okay, well, I do everything right and these people do everything wrong. Like, look at me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I deserve your attention.
Right.
I deserve your affection. I
Mhm.
deserve your love. And it's like, that's such a, like, going for the jugular moment.
You see
Like,
it?
in scripture, like, he's not even shy about it. He's not like, okay, well, Dad, what do you think? No, he's like, I deserve this. Like, I'm entitled. This is mine. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah, and we always and then we like we kind of preach it, you know, because sometimes as Christians we take that side of the son who obeyed dad, right? And then we teach it or we preach it to those that aren't Christian as you are that son
right.
who went out and spent everything, but you can come back,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, it's that wrong idea.
Yeah,
in
but
general. That's
Well,
like,
I mean, I think it's just like that's more credit to Jesus for being so smart and like in saying it just this way, because it works for both people. It works for people who have gone away, who have gone and done stuff, right? And then but they want to come back to Father, and doesn't work for people who think they have earned
Right.
the love of the Father. So
Right.
it kind of like that's what I love about this parable so much. But like,
if you think about it, everybody, all of us have been in both of these sons situations, right? Like I could be in good standing, like the good guy out at a certain time, and then I can be the one that just left and spent everything. So, but
so I guess we kind of like that. But like I guess we can go back into the
to the parable.
into the parable, right?
Sorry,
so like we were kind of saying like first, I think one of the questions that I would want to have and ask the people would be like, what do you think prodigal means, right? Because I think like that's such a word that is used and we don't actually know what that means. So just like kind of think before we go into this, kind of be thinking, what does that word actually mean, right? Like if you don't already know what it means, but like
which is
kinda
part
keep
of
that
like
in
the
mind.
English vernacular now.
Yeah,
It's like
because
when
of
you
this,
say,
right? Yeah.
Right.
So like we can kind of go back into the story that there was two sons, right? Two sons, and then one of them, I think that it kind of gets lost on like the culture now that back then, people had inheritance, right? And they were entitled to it. So like, and they only got that inheritance when the person died, right? So like for the son to have like, Father, give me the share of property that's coming to me, like give me my inheritance now. I feel like that's pretty, like I wouldn't ask that of my dad because I know that like for that means that you won't have to die, right? So it's kind of like it's kind of a strange thing to ask your father, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's kind of like, I guess, like, págame tu herencia. Like, and if he gives it to me, it's kind of like saying, you're dead to me.
yeah, because like that's all I care about, right?
Right? It's like, I really want your inheritance, so I don't really care if you're dead or alive. Like, I just want the money.
Right. Yeah. So that's what the son did. He asked for his inheritance, right? Give me the share of property coming to me. So then the father split it kind of like evenly, right, between
Both of them.
he kind of like, okay, here's your half, right, whatever. So he gave him his half, and then the son gathered all he had, which like he sold the stuff that was like actually property or that wasn't actual currency, and either sold it or traded it for actual money. Is the thing, right? Like if my dad gave me like a tractor or whatever, I would sell that and then get whatever like
Money.
however $1,000 I have. So that's pretty like reckless. It's just like that this son is like putting all of his out, like the word is like just making it all into liquid assets, right? Which is just like very easily interchangeable. It's like that's pretty dumb. Like nobody would advise you to do that. So then he did that. He went on a journey to far country, which speaking to like keeping in mind with the context, he would have left like the culture of the Jewish culture, right? Like I think it's kind of because he's speaking to
or even that community.
Yeah, because I mean, he, it says that he pretty much like partied and had fun, right? And I mean, I think that's saying like he was pretty far away from what the Jewish community was and the culture and like the not the rules, but the scriptures,
like from
right?
God, like
from God, exactly. Like he was just out partying, having the time of his life, you can say, right? So yeah, I think he was pretty far away from all of that.
Yeah, which is like, I mean, throughout the whole story, just like being in God's like presence and being a unit of a people was so important. And then that this guy would leave, or that Jesus would put it this way, right? That this guy, the son, left and went into a foreign country where like even when he began to be in need and there was no more food, that he hired himself to one of the people there, and he was working with pigs, like, which would have been like completely disgusting to them. Like they wouldn't even go like near.
It was
pigs.
unclean.
Yeah, you wouldn't go near them, especially to work for somebody who like is raising pigs. So is that just like even further like solidifying that he really was away from God? Because I feel like that's lost on us now. Like I mean, now we eat like pig bacon and stuff, so no, we don't think about it. But like I think like for Jesus to have said this to these people, that would have hit home for them, right? They would have been like, wow, I don't know, like I would have been like, ooh,
well, yeah, like the son, like pretty much the son of a rich man to like having like not even just poor, but having no respect.
Yeah, just being like completely,
like being completely degraded to the lowest,
just got like
the bottom.
unclean. Yeah, so just that's how far he.
Yeah, like there's no dignity there. I think that's where he's going. Jesus is going like there's no dignity.
Yeah, because it says that he was longing to eat the food of the pigs, right? But nobody offered him anything. So it's like for me it just sounds like if someone would have said like, do you want some? He would have actually eaten the food of the same food with the pigs. So it's like,
I think this is like one of those because I know we did that with the other stories of like that how I knew the Bible stories was because I watched videos. I remember watching a video of this and like the son, right? He's working and he like throws food in like a pig trough, right? And he's just like looking at it and he's like licking his lips because he sees the pigs eating, right? And then he's like, so in the movie he actually like falls down and just
I think I've seen it.
I think so, right?
Like
and then he just like starts eating it, right? Yeah. And then he's eating it, and then he's like, this is how far I've come, right? He has that moment where he's like, he even says right here, right? Like how many of my father's servants have more than enough bread to eat? So like I think he has that moment of like
realization.
Yeah. He's like, look at me, look how far I've gone, right? Like look at what I had, and like this is where I'm at right now.
Well, one of the things right there, where because it says that he was longing to eat the food of the pigs. It's like, and at that moment when he was realizing it, because then he goes into a speech, right? Like, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna tell my dad, I have sinned against heaven and you. Like he's having that moment, and he doesn't know though that what his dad is doing, right, on the other side,
because he just expects like
like
for his dad to just be like, okay, like, or like his father won't forgive him, right? I mean,
like he was prepping himself to be a servant,
to be rejected,
to be rejected,
or like if he got anything good, he would be a servant.
Yeah, like that would,
or the lowest in the household,
which would have been a slave, like back in
pero he's like prepping for that, right? Because he's at that moment and he's saying like, dude, the servants at my dad's, like, they're better than this. So if I can even get that, like, I'll be good, right? Because I messed up. So, but he's not expecting his dad to take him back, right?
Yeah. So which is like all the more, I don't know, like just where he goes and goes to his father, right? He's like walking back, and in the video that I saw, he's traveling back, right? And then it just the way I imagine it, right? Because those videos, it's like the sun is like far off in like a hill, right? And then the house is kind of a little higher. So the fact that it even says that the father saw him from afar, it's like your dad was looking for him. Like I think it's like, I don't know, like his dad was probably month after month, maybe years, just like
just waiting for him to come back.
Waiting for him to come back, so like that he would see him from far away, that he would recognize him from so far away, right? And then that he like,
and how different like must have
their views were of each other.
Yeah, and then that he runs like to him because like he's an older man, like he probably couldn't run very well, but like the fact that he didn't even care, right? Like that he would made a fool of himself in front of his servants or whatever, like that he would run to his son. And embraced him. Like that's other like the way it's in the.
Well, like it says, embraced him and kissed him, right? Like he ran to him. Like that got me because you guys were saying, right? The pig is an unclean animal, right? And he was feeding the pigs. He was with the pigs.
He smelled like pigs.
He's pretty filthy.
So he was a pig, right?
To have that Jonah moment again, where it's like, what was it like? You know what I mean? What was it like in the belly of the whale? What was it like to be like a pig farmer?
Yeah, but his dad doesn't even care, right? He smells like pig, but his dad just like goes in for the hug and kisses him, and he's like, wait, like, you know, as another like otro judío, right, would have been like, well, hold on, you're just like you just became unclean, right?
There's a 7-day process, right, that they have to go through to get clean again.
That got me like, wow, like his dad, when he was miserable there feeding the pigs, his dad was probably looking out the window like, when are you coming back, right? And then once he finally sees him, he's like, I'm just running to you, and I don't care.
Yeah, and just like that, the way it says like embraced him, I think we think of a hug, but like the way like in the Bible it says like that he fell on his neck is like the little translation for it was like that he just like threw himself on him, which should have been the opposite. Like it should have been the son that did that to the father,
right?
And instead it's the father that's like so desperate to have his son back. Yeah, it's just like,
and he even interrupts the speech. Imagínate, yo toda nerviosa, right? Just all
like
nervous,
I had this prepared,
like,
Dad, like
prepping this speech just to get myself into being a servant. Like just.
He's like, I don't care.
Yeah, and then it's
It says like, I don't care, just like just throw a party.
He gets like halfway through the speech, right? Right before he even asks him if he can be a servant. And his dad's like, what does he exactly say, right? He says, quickly bring the robe, right? Put a robe, put it on him, put a ring on his hand, right? Like a ring, like signifying like he's back, he's part of the family now. He's like, he has the seal, right? I mean, it could be like he has a family seal. He's back, right? And then throw this huge party, and get the most fattened calf, kill it, and let us celebrate, right? Because my son was dead, and is alive, right? He was lost, so they started celebrating. So I think,
I think one of the big, overarching like themes of the story is like value. Because, like, I think the prodigal son didn't even see value in himself anymore. Like, it was like, I mean, I as a kid, I always think of again, Sister Rosa, shout out to Sister Rosa. But she brought, like, a $20 bill to class, right? And then she crumpled the $20 bill. And she threw it on the table. And then she had, like, a fresh 20. And then she said, which one would you like more? And we're like, oh, the fresh 20.
The fresh one, right? Yeah.
Right, but then she's like, but if you take it to the bank or you take it to the store, it's still going to have the same value. And we're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. And like and as a kid, like that, it was like, mind blown. Like, even though that's how we see people, that's not how God sees people. He sees like the literal value of people. And I think that goes to how the Pharisees and the tax collectors were seeing people. Like, that's how they were seeing Jesus. Like, they were seeing him as the fresh 20, and they were seeing the people that he was with as the crumpled 20s. Yeah. Like, they're like, those don't go together.
So, like, I'm not supposed to be with those crumpled 20s.
No, you're not supposed to be. And so, like, to me, like, that whole part that you guys just talked about, that's as if somebody, like, ironed him out. Like gave him a brand new, like,
right,
you're
like,
a spanking brand new, 20. You know what I mean? Like, like you got all your value back, which is an insane concept. I mean, sorry, that's me being like, but it's crazy, because especially in the Jewish culture, like, once you're out, dude. Like, holla, like, bye.
Yeah, and it's even like that he already spent his inheritance.
Yeah.
So he's like whatever he, I don't know, like the inheritance is a huge thing, right? Like and like the fact that the son already spent that, and he's like, you're done. Like I have nothing else to give you, right? Like you already got your inheritance, right? And now you're back, but the father doesn't.
He gave him more.
Yeah, like he threw a huge party, and like
I'm pretty sure that he gave him half of what his brother was supposed to get. I think, and that's where we're gonna get into why he was probably so mad.
So,
but espérame, can I just add another comment? Like, es que ahorita estaba Maya diciendo eso, it just brought to mind, like, he was all dirty, right? And the father probably will, like, lo limpió, right? Lo vistió, and it just reminded me of what Jesus later in the book of Luke, right, does for us, right? Like, he had given us our inheritance, right, in el Jardín del Edén, and then we went and we did whatever we wanted with it, but then here he comes, right, and
sounds like a Jesus filter to me.
And he washes our feet.
Okay, we're changing.
No, kidding.
But no, it's just like we came back, right? And he's like clothing us. He's like cleaning us with his. Well, Jesús nos limpió con su sangre, right? So he covered us with his blood. Pero
even like when he was here on earth, like he would wash his disciples' feet. It's just like, dude, you're not like, it's not supposed to work like this. Like I'm the one that's supposed to do it, and you're the one doing it. It's just like, yeah. So I think that's kind of like what we've been saying the whole time, is like that the Father in this is like,
I don't see you the way you see other people. I see you the way I see you, which is like, it's a lot.
Which is like, I think that brings us to, so when in the beginning we asked the question of what prodigal means, right? So prodigal, like, it's actually defined as like spending money or resources freely and recklessly, right? Like being just wastefully extravagant. So like that's what prodigal means. And in this story, right, like it's called the Prodigal Son. But the more we look at it, it's actually the father who's the most prodigal out of everybody in the story, because he like gives his inheritance to the son. The son comes back and then just throws a huge party, like just like, I don't know how much money that must have spent, but like he doesn't care. Like
the fattened calf.
Yeah,
that was like the best.
Like you only keep that for like, and he probably brought out the best wine too, like the best bread, like whatever, like. Yeah, so I think it's the father that's the most
reckless.
Prodigal. Yeah, it's just like, like, oh, the overwhelming.
You see it?
Yeah, it's like, so I think that's when people say like, oh, well, like God isn't reckless. It's like his love is reckless, right? Because he doesn't care. Like, it's just like, that's what the Father's love is.
We don't want any comments in the comments. None, please. Not about reckless love.
Yeah, I mean, that's what like really just kind of like breaks me down. It's just like that. It's not supposed to be that way, right? For us, like that's like what you were saying, that Jesus came and he cleaned us when we didn't deserve that. We were the one that should have gone and asked him, like, let me just like, if I could just like be your servant, right? If I could just like be your slave, that'd be enough. But he just gives us,
Can I just like put like us, humanity, right, into the parable, because like the parable is for us, right? When we like, it's just so, see, I'm like, I don't even have the words to say it, but it's like I've been that son, that leaves God's house and does whatever, whatever I want, and then when I got to that point when I was like with the pigs and I was just like a mess, and I didn't really had a speech prepared, but I was like, okay, like, God, I want to come back to you, so just like, I'd be fine with whatever you want to give me, right? Like, I don't have to be the youth leader. I wasn't asking for any of that big stuff, right? I was just like, I just want to come back to you. And he doesn't even let you finish.
Right.
The moment that you say, I want to come back, he's already there. Like, he's already given his life for you, and it's rich. For me, it hits home like it, because I've been there. I've been both sons in this parable, and his love is just amazing. So yeah, Anyway, so if you're out there and you feel like you can't come back to God, you definitely can, because the only thing you have to say is, I want to come back.
Mm-hmm.
He's already looking for you. Like, he's already there waiting for you. You must, say the words and he's there.
And he'll stop you halfway through and then just...
Yeah, like he doesn't even care about your speech. He doesn't
Right.
even care about where you've been, right? Como el papá he doesn't care que estaba con los pigs or whatever, wherever he was. He didn't ask, why did you leave in the first place, or nada. Like,
Yeah.
forget
like,
about his
didn't
speech.
even ask him where he was or what he was doing. He didn't care.
No.
It's just, I'm just glad you're back.
Yeah. So.
I mean, and it's really hard. Just to be honest, like just to disregard all of that would be really difficult. Like, even me that doesn't ask a ton of questions, like, I would, if it was my kid, I'd be like, where the heck were you? Like, what the heck happened?
Yeah.
And he didn't care. He just didn't care. And then, like, for me, on top of that, like what you were saying, like, I think too, us as humanity, we don't understand the concept of that love is because either it was never given to us or we never gave it to somebody else. And, like, to me, a love that just doesn't withhold anything is like a hard concept for me. Like, to me, like, in general, it's just like such a hard concept to understand. But, like, like, you go through life and you begin to understand it more. Like, I think with my family and, like, my nephews and, like, my dad, like, as I'm getting older, I'm understanding the concept of, like, I don't need anything from you. I just want to give to you. I just want to give to you because I love you. You don't have to. I'm not expecting anything in return. And that's, like, really, really difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So if we keep just kind of finishing up, like, that's the one son. The one son is like he's good, right? And then the other son, which is
Here
like
we go. Yeah.
the actual, like, the 1-2 punch, right? This one's like if the first one was the jab, this one's like the uppercut or like the hook or whatever. So his older son was in the field and he was working, right? How he always been. And then he's like, he hears music and dancing, which I like. Like, I don't. If I was that son, I would have been like,
Flip.
man. I was like, I've been working in the field all day.
Are you for real
Yeah,
right
it's
now?
like, what's going on, right? It's like, why is there my dad like just jamming, right?
Right.
And then he calls on service and asks, like, what's going on? And he's like, your brother came back and your father killed the fattened calf because he received them back in sound, right? Whatever. So he got mad and he didn't want to go into the play. So then his father comes out again.
Yeah, like no.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's just like he doesn't ignore that son either.
Right.
Like, I'm taking back my son, the one that was lost. And then this one gets all upset and is like, okay, like, I'm just not gonna bother. I'm just not gonna go in and celebrate with you. And I like how the father doesn't just like, oh, se le va a pasar, or I'll deal with him later.
Which is what we usually, like, it's kind of the...
Yeah. It's like, si estás enojado, walk away, come back later. But the father's like, okay, like, I'm celebrating the son, but I'm going to go take care of my other son because I love him too. So it's just, again, like, how much love Jesus is, like, putting into this parable.
Yeah, and then that, like, the son was like, look, like, these many years I've served you and I never disobeyed you, yet you never gave me a young goat that I might celebrate my friends, right? So he's like, I did all this stuff for you and you never gave me any of this stuff, right? Like, I feel like he's earned it, right? And he's like, but then it's even it when he says, but when this son of yours, he's not even like acknowledging that he's his brother. He's just like, when this guy, right? When this son of yours who devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fattened calf for him. So it's like, I did all this for you and, like, you never did any of this for me. So, and that's where I think he's really hitting the Pharisees, because that's exactly how they were. Like, they expected God to do something for them.
They were going to be rewarded.
Yeah, like, I did this for you, so, like, I expect, like a deal with God. Like, you have to honor your side of the deal, right? Yeah. Yeah.
But then the father tells them, right, like, you've always been with me, and all that I have is yours, right? Not just, like, the inheritance that I give you, but also whatever I have left, right? Like, that's yours. And it kind of makes me think of because he was, like, directing this to the Pharisees, right? Because the Pharisees were like, well, we're following God, right? And the Gentiles aren't Hebrews, right? they don't fit into our God community, right? They don't deserve God. It's just us. I feel like you could put the Pharisees in there because it's like they knew the scripture, right? They knew God. And I mean, there were some Pharisees that actually loved God, right? That weren't just doing it for the looks, right? And the respect that they would get walking down the street. So I feel like Jesus is saying, like, dude, like, you have me, right? You know me. You know how to find me. And there's these other groups of people that they don't know me, right? So what is mine, like, is yours.
Like
Like,
it
you
was already
have it.
yours.
Yeah, you have it. So why can't you be happy that now, I'm taking it into, like, even further, right? So
Yeah,
that's
just what he
like,
says. Like it's fitting to celebrate and be glad for your brother was dead.
mhm.
Now he's alive, right? He was lost, now he's found.
Right.
It's like, why are you mad? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then too, I think what we don't really see is that like the Father knew what was out there. The Father knew exactly what was out there. He knew that like there was no good out there. There was death out there. Your brother was literally out there dead. And you don't understand. He's basically telling the other brother, you don't understand what's out there. You don't understand what your brother went through. But just be glad he's back. Like he's back from the dead. Like, and I don't know. I feel like that's what God does. I think God does that to us, and we have to remind ourselves, like, if we don't understand grace, it's because we've never given grace, or we don't have our lives don't have very much to do with grace. If we can't understand why God would bring somebody back, it's because we just don't understand the concept of grace. Like, to be with God is to be in grace. You know what I mean? Like, that's basically what the Father's saying is, like, you were always with me. You always had grace. He left, and now that he's back, he has grace again. So it's like a really...
Yeah, you already had it, and it was already given to you. You just
Yeah.
didn't understand.
Right.
Because
You
you
didn't
never
know it
gave
was
it.
there.
Right, because you never gave it. Like the
Right.
Pharisees, like, you never gave grace to people who were the unclean, were, like, in the
Right.
pigs. Like, you never gave grace to them. So that's why you
Right.
never understood it for yourself. Like,
Right.
but you already had it. Like,
Yeah, and I
And
feel like,
yeah, go for
no,
it.
go for it.
No, but he even said the same thing when it was like they were wanting to stone the woman. It was like the same grace that, you deal out to people, that's what's going to be given to you. Like he was like, if she understands grace because she's lived at the bottom. And like now, now that I've given her value and worth, now you're going to try to take that from her. Like that's it's sad, but it's true. Like if it was up to the other brother, he would have just taken everything from his brother and said, go back to the pig field, like go back because you don't deserve any of this. Like, and we do that like sorry, I'm taking ownership, but us as believers, sometimes we do that like a lot, like all the time. We're like, you're not even worth my time, or you're not even worth, how can the Lord look at you? You're like not even, do you know, like people, I've seen it happen in real life. And so like that to me, that's like scary because people live their whole life like that, like not even having an inkling or a concept of grace, that it would just it's natural just to publicly humiliate people or shame people
or say stuff about things,
right,
and it's like
and it's like no, that shouldn't even be a part of anything.
Or for you think that like you're
better.
The
entitlement is insane.
I think that's like the hardest thing to kind of like keep in check. I think because we do hear all the time like, oh, like we're set apart and we're like saint, like we're made saints, right? Like we're set apart, but that doesn't mean that you're like better inherently, right? I don't know, like
right, that's the whole thing of the $20 bill. It's like you're the same, it's the same value. It's just that one is like as less valuable to certain people, but not to the Father. It's the same value.
I mean, we're so valuable to him, right? That in this chapter 15, he gives us three, I think the three
Two
of
other
them are
ones.
here. The parable of the lost coin and the lost sheep, right? And that just makes me like go to God's heart, right? Like Jesus gave us three parables of something that was lost, right? And how each person in this parable, the owner, right? Owner, the father is the owner of his sons, but the owner, how much they hurt, right? Because I feel like it's easy to miss that part. We read the parables and we talk about them and all, but I think we miss the part of God's heart, right? Like how much it hurts when he loses one of us, right? Because this is a different parable, but how happy the lady gets when she finds her coin in that parable, the father, right? How happy he gets that he throws a party when he finds his son, and then the one
shepherd.
the shepherd like
leaves the other ones.
Yeah, leaves the 99 to
find
go find the one, right? And he's so happy when he finds it. It's just like,
leaves the 99.
yeah.
Just back to that song.
Just reckless love right now. So that's just like when one of us, right? And just imagine how many people in the world, right? Just in the world, how many people don't know God? How many people have walked away from God? How, like, it's just insane. I can't even imagine how God is feeling, right? Like how much his heart is hurting. And I don't know, it just makes me I've been, I don't know, like missionaries, right? I've always said God hasn't called me to be a missionary, but man, like
that's
being a missionary,
special breed.
It's like you're reaching out exactly to like God's heart, right? You're going to find those that God is looking for. So praying for all the missionaries.
Yeah, because I think like even people who like don't even know they're lost, right? It's like who are living in death, but like I mean differently from this prodigal son where he realized that he was like far away from God, right? Because he knew what he had before. People sometimes don't even know what they like, that they're lost, right? That they're living in death, but like God will celebrate the same, right? When they're back, because he's like, you know, you're back when you never even knew you were gone. You know, like you never knew you were lost. So just like going back to that, like we see people and we think stuff, right? Like and like we see somebody on the street or whatever, and we think something about them, but they don't even like I don't know, like they're like maybe they're lost and they don't even know they're lost, which is like even worse than like, you know, like you knew what you had before and now it's gone. I don't know. Just
you see it, but sometimes it could be the other way around. Like a homeless, right? I've judged homeless before, right? And think about it, it's like maybe I was the one that was lost, and they had it all, right? They had God, right? God was celebrating them, and I was the one that was lost, thinking that I wasn't lost, you know?
Yeah, like the whole saying. But it's a whole like saying where it's like the pot calling the kettle black. It's like, oh, you're this and you're that, and then it's the same thing. Yeah. Like it's the whole thing where Jesus was telling the Pharisees, like, you wash the cup on the outside, but on the inside it's like filthy. Like it's really bad, and it's getting worse. But you know, I'm just gonna keep pointing at it until you get it. You know what I mean? Like Jesus was like that. He's just like, hey, you know, like take care of it.
And go ahead.
And no, but I'm just saying, like, and it happens to us all the time. And I think another level, right? I think the whole family dynamic in this story is like so real. And so I can always usually take it back to church, right? And I can say like, there's been times, and I still hope my friends would do this, but like there's been times when people have come to me and said like, hey, you're getting so wrapped up into this that you're losing the focus of why you're doing it. And like, I think that the father was that to his brother. Like, you're so caught up in doing all the work for me because you know the inheritance you're going to get, but it's about loving your brother. It's about loving me, and you're forgetting why you're doing all of this. And like, I've had that moment in ministry so many times, and it hurts so bad when you're like, why the heck am I even doing this? Because it's like, it's not the right motivation. You're not doing it for the right reasons. And it hurts you. I mean, it's really hurt me, like broke me down. And I'm just saying, like, I'm so glad that I belong to a family that would not allow me or let me continue down that same road and would point out, hey, like Jesus, you know, like, hey, that cup is not clean. Like, come on, dude, like, get with it because it's not right. And so, like, if you haven't found your community, or if you're listening, you do have a community, you know, like, it's so important for us to be like, you know, to call each other on, you know, we're doing this for the wrong reason. We're not doing this for the right reason. You don't, you know, you're supposed to do it because you love people, not because you're going to get something out of it. And yeah, but anyway.
Yeah, because that's like at the core of the Father's heart, like in the parable and with God, like that's what he's about, that like going after the one, right? Like not even caring, like just going and hugging you and being happy that he's got you back. So that's how we should be. It's a high standard, which is
Right.
yeah.
And now that I think about it, like, it sounds so dumb, like valuing the work over people. Like, really? Like, I mean, you can't value the work over people. Like, it's just so backwards. And sometimes we think that Jesus was like so revolutionary, but he's just like pointing out the obvious. Like, you're supposed to love people, dude, not the other way. And you're not supposed to love me because I give stuff to you. But anyway,
I see it, but I don't know. I just reading the parable, like when you like take some time to think about it and you read it over and over, it just becomes more obvious, right? Like what Jesus is saying, what Jesus was trying to tell us, right? And it's just, I mean, just having this parable today, after thousands of years, I mean, that's
it's
love
still so
right
relevant,
there. Yeah, it's relevant, and that's love, right? Because he's like, okay, Fanny is gonna need this one day, so I'm gonna make sure that Luke, right, writes it down, and I'm gonna just leave it for her. And I mean, just the love that he shows for everybody, and how we're supposed to be loving, right, to others. It's just it's hard, like it's hard to take it in, right? Because it's too much, I feel like, and it puts you in this spot where you really have to think about it, how you're doing things, and who you're doing it to, who you need to love more, or like who you're like judging. But I mean, at the end, it's just like it's about God, right? It's like, okay, I'm just gonna step back, and I'm not going to worry about how much work I've put into this, right? But I'm gonna focus on God's heart, which is love for others. So
yeah, and then too, like, for me, like, one of the crazy concepts of love is like, as you grow older, it changes like all the time, and I think like this is so helpful in that process of like of love, is because it's like I ask myself, like, how can I, like we talked about it last week, right? Like, how can I love God without asking anything in return, or just loving God for being God, right? And the same thing for people. Like, how can I just love people for who they are, and not what I want them to be, or what they can do for me, or what I can get out of them, or whatever. Like, that's a process that we have to go through, like, all the time, or I have to go through. I should speak for myself. But yeah,
I'd say we.
We all do it. Yeah. We're all
I'd say we.
Yeah.
But I think we're pretty close on Instagram, right? It's gonna kick us out and pretty soon.
Yeah. We should finish round out the. We're gonna post this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're finishing up. I just want to say, if you wherever you're at right now, I don't know if you're in the living room or in your room or in your car. It doesn't really matter where you're at. I just want you to know that this is God's word. This is God's heart, and He doesn't. I've said this a bunch of times, but I feel like I'm gonna die saying this. He doesn't care where you've been. He doesn't care what you've done. He doesn't care what you've said. The only thing that He is looking for is for you to come back, for you to say, here I am, God. I want to come back, right? We're not going to be perfect. We're never going to be perfect. But He's waiting. He's there, ready to throw a party. Like the moment you say, yes, I want you, God. Yes, I want to come back to you, God. Like there's a party in heaven.
Yeah.
Right? So just imagine if two of you, there's going to be a party for both of you. That's going to be a huge party. Or there's three of you, like the more people
even
that say
bigger.
yes, the bigger the party, right? Just imagine all the angels.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
there's no shame.
Yeah, there's no shame.
And I know that's the hard thing, because we as humans, we do that, and we've felt that, right? We've felt shame of like even coming clean to somebody, or just coming back to them after, like, I can't come back to them because, or you do, and then you get your heart broken because, like, they didn't accept me or something. But that's because humans are broken inherently, and God won't shame you, right? Like God doesn't God just wants you back, and He loves you, and He won't make you feel, I don't know. He won't make you
He's
feel like
not-
He's not gonna make you do something
Yeah,
to
or
earn
he's
His
not
love.
there
Yeah.
withholding from you.
Yeah.
He's not there like, oh, okay, well, I'm just waiting for him to do something for me.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Then
he'll
him
run
or
out
whatever.
and he'll love you, right?
Yeah.
That's because that's what God
Yeah,
that's
no,
what God does.
really though.
So yeah, I mean, if you're home, and just know that God loves you, and that He's there for you, and He's not going to shame you for what you've done, because there's really nothing that we could do that could break that love that the Father has for
Separate
us.
us from the love of God. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's close in prayer. Right there where you are. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you want to come back to God, and this is it. You don't need a group of people around you praying for you. Just close your eyes with us, and just pray. Just you can say these words. God, I just want to give you thanks for this night, Lord. Thank you for Maya, for Obed, for the people that tuned in tonight, Lord. God, maybe there's someone tonight listening to this. Maybe they'll listen to it later. But they're feeling something in their heart, and they've been wanting to come back to you. And if you're that person, just say, God, I want you. God, I need you. I have realized that what I've been doing is not what you want. I've realized that your heart's been hurting because I'm away from you. And I learned from your word today that you are looking out for me, that you are waiting to see me, to run to me, to embrace me, to kiss me, to clothe me, to change my life. God, here I am. I am yours. I'm coming back home. Lord, I just want to say thank you for your love. Thank you for loving us every single day. Your mercy is new every morning for us, Lord. We pray, God, that you work in our hearts, that your Holy Spirit can reach in, Lord, into the deepest of our hearts, Lord, even to those things that we've put away, Lord, that we don't even know that they're there. You can reach and you can clean our hearts. We pray, God, that you bless our families, that you bless our youth group, every youth in the church, Lord, and their friends, God. Help us be a blessing to our friends during these times. We pray all of these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.